You were born in Bentonville, Arkansas, not New York, not London, not the kind of city that appears on a map that powerful families usually appear on. Bentonville. Population 40,000. Northwest Arkansas, the Ozark Plateau. A place where the main street has a town square, and the summers are humid, and the winters are gray, and the sky in every direction is the flat American sky of a place that was not supposed to matter. Bentonville matters now. Bentonville is the headquarters of Walmart, the largest company by revenue in the history of human commerce. And the reason your family is worth $513 billion, and the reason the town square has a private art museum your great-aunt built, and a mountain bike trail network your cousins funded, and a zip code that has quietly become the most consequential address in American retail. You were born here. You were born into all of this. You didn't choose any of this, but this already chose you. Your great-grandfather is Sam Walton. You need to understand who Sam Walton was, not the legend, the man. He drove a 1979 Ford F-150 pickup truck, red. He drove it himself. No driver, no staff, no security detail, to Walmart stores across the country until he was too sick to drive. He bought his clothes at Walmart. He got his haircut at the local barbershop in Bentonville for $5. He kept his office in a converted storage room. He was, by every observable behavioral metric, a frugal man from the rural South, who believed that a dollar saved was a dollar earned, and who applied this belief not only to his personal life, but to the architecture of an entire civilization of commerce. He opened the first Walmart in Rogers, Arkansas, on July 2, 1962. One store, discount merchandise. The proposition, we will sell you what you need for less than anyone else will sell it to you. He was right. The proposition worked. The proposition worked so completely, so absolutely, so without limit, that by the time he died of bone cancer in 1992, Walmart was the largest retailer in the United States and his family was the richest in the country. He left his children stock. He left his grandchildren a name. He left the world a question it is still trying to answer. The number is $513 billion. Bloomberg's list of the world's richest families puts the Walton fortune at $513.4 billion, up nearly 20% in a single year. Deadline more than the GDP of most countries, more than the combined annual revenue of every major airline, every major telecommunications company, every major home builder in the Dallas-Fort Worth area simultaneously. The Waltons and their foundations own 44% of Walmart. Walmart's market cap sits at $922 billion. The company has 2.1 million employees across more than 10,500 stores in 19 countries. Coming soon.net 2.1 million employees. You will spend a significant portion of your life thinking about that number, not because you are required to, because you cannot stop. The wealth your family holds is not the wealth of a tech founder who built something nobody had before. It is not the wealth of an oil dynasty sitting on a geological accident. It is not the wealth of a media baron who shaped what people believe. It is the wealth of a man who figured out how to sell people what they already needed, cheaper than anyone else, and who did this by making the margins so thin that the only way to keep them was to pay the people doing the work as little as the market would allow. Every dollar of your family's $513 billion passed through a cash register operated by a person making somewhere between $14 and $19 an hour. You know this. You have always known this. You are 7 years old when you first walk into a Walmart store and understand, in the wordless way children understand things, that the people in the blue vests are not like the people in the house you came from. You file this away. You do not say it out loud. This is the first lesson. Your grandfather is one of Sam's children. Rob, Jim, Alice, John, who died in a plane crash in 2005, leaving behind a son who will become one of the most interesting members of your generation, a man named Lucas who will spend his inheritance trying to undo some of what the inheritance required. None of the Waltons, the surviving children and grandchildren of Sam Walton, work directly for the retailer, though one serves on Walmart's board and an in-law chairs it, but the family still holds a 45% stake in Walmart. IMDb, your grandfather's brother chairs the board. Your grandfather sits on the board. Your generation. The grandchildren, the great-grandchildren, the third and fourth tier of an inheritance that has grown every year since 1962, is now slowly, formally being handed the controls. The grandchildren were given voting rights over the family's Walmart holdings a year ago. Voting rights. Not operating authority. Not a job. Not a desk at the headquarters 2 miles from the house where you grew up. Voting rights over shares in a company whose decisions affect the wages, the working conditions, the daily economic reality of 2.1 million people. You did not build this. You did not earn this. You were born on the right side of a decision your great-grandfather made in Rogers, Arkansas, 63 years ago. This is what inheritance means at the scale your family operates at. Not a house. Not a trust fund. A vote over the lives of 2.1 million people. The compound in Bentonville is not a palace. This is important to understand. The Walton aesthetic, the specific visual language of the family's private life, is deeply, intentionally, almost aggressively unpalatial. No gold door frames. No imported marble. No Vienna chandeliers. Ranch houses, pickup trucks, bass fishing on Beaver Lake, the specific plainness of a family that came from nothing, made everything, and decided, consciously, explicitly, as a family value passed down with the same deliberateness as the stock, that they would not look like what they are. Sam said, "A dollar is a dollar whether you have 1 or 100 billion. He meant it. He lived it. His children were raised inside it. You were raised inside the version his children built, which is slightly larger, slightly more comfortable, slightly more aware of what the wealth can provide, but still fundamentally committed to the proposition that the Waltons are regular people from Arkansas who happen to build something large. You go to public school for 2 years before your parents move you, not because the public school is bad, because of what starts happening in the public school when the other children figure out your last name. The figuring out takes 3 weeks. After that, every interaction has a quality to it that you will spend years learning to accurately name. It is not friendship. It is positioning. Gary is the maintenance man for the family's main property in Bentonville. He has worked for the family for 16 years. He is from Rogers, the town where Sam opened the first store. He drives a Ford F-150 that is older than your mother's car and newer than his daughter's. He calls your grandfather Mr. Walton. He calls your father Sir. He calls you always by your first name, which is the only person on the property who does this. And when he says it, there is a specific quality of directness that is different from the quality of everyone else's attention. He is not impressed by you. He is not unimpressed by you. He simply sees you as a person, which turns out to be the rarest thing you will encounter in your childhood, and which you will not have a name for until you are much older. One afternoon when you are 12, you are sitting on the back steps while Gary works on the irrigation system near the garden. You are complaining about something. The specific complaint of a 12-year-old whose life contains no real problems, which is its own kind of problem. He sets down his wrench. He looks at you. You know how many people work at Walmart? He says, you do know. You have been told. Every one of them, he says, worked for everything they have. He picks up his wrench. He goes back to the irrigation system. He says nothing else that afternoon. He never mentions it again. You will think about this for the rest of your life. The Walton Family Foundation. Jim Walton channels wealth through the Walton Family Foundation, which donates hundreds of millions annually to causes including education reform, environmental conservation, and economic development. The $8.6 billion philanthropy's causes have shifted leftward as the grandchildren have taken over the foundation's board. This is what the newspapers call it, a leftward shift. As if the question of what to do with inherited billions is a political position rather than a moral reckoning. You grow up inside this reckoning, not as an abstract debate, as a dinner table conversation, as a question your parents have different answers to than your grandparents did, as the specific tension that exists in every enormously wealthy American family that came from a particular set of values and produced a generation with a different set, and is now trying to figure out what the inheritance actually requires. Your grandfather believed that the way you help people is by giving them low prices and jobs. Your parents believe this too, mostly with some adjustments. You believe something more complicated, something that took years of education and travel and the specific discomfort of being 20 years old and reading an economics paper about the relationship between Walmart's market entry into a region and the suppression of local wages to form. The paper was not assigned to you. You found it. The way you find everything you are not supposed to find. Harvard. Economics and public policy. Your roommate is from rural Ohio. His father works at a distribution center, not a Walmart distribution center, a competing retailers, but close enough. You do not tell him your last name for 6 weeks, not because you are ashamed of it, because you want, for 6 weeks, to be a person who is met for what they say and think and do rather than for the accident of the name they were born with. The 6 weeks end when someone in your economics seminar puts up a slide about retail market concentration and your name is in the footnote, and your roommate sees it and looks at you across the seminar table with an expression you will not forget. Not anger, not envy. Something more like recalibration. He recalibrates quickly. He is a smart, decent person. He just needed a moment to adjust the way you knew you would need a moment. The first time you read the wage research. This is the second lesson. Understanding something and living with understanding it are not the same operation. The second one takes much longer. Lucas is your cousin. Lucas Walton, in particular, is part of a growing cohort of next-generation heirs who are forging a path outside the family business. He has poured his passion into impact investing through Builder's Vision, which has massive scale and impact on oceans, the planet, and agriculture. He is the son of John, who is gone. He carries the specific weight of a person who inherited not only the fortune, but the absence, who grew up knowing his father died doing something he loved, which is both easier and harder than the alternative. You spend time with Lucas at family gatherings in Bentonville. He is thoughtful in the specific way of someone who has done the work of thinking rather than the work of performing thinking. He does not pretend the fortune is simple. He does not pretend the philanthropy solves it. He once told you something you wrote down. You can't undo the first 60 years with the second 60, he said, but you can decide what the second 60 are for. You think about this. You add it to the file. The file is very full by now. The shareholders meeting happens every June in Bentonville. Walmart's annual meeting is an event. Concerts, speeches, the specific theater of a company that understands its employees need to feel like they are part of something larger than a shift at a cash register. The empire began with Sam Walton, a man known for his humble habits and driving an old pickup truck. He founded Walmart in 1962 with a simple idea: sell goods at lower prices than anyone else. The meeting recreates this story every year. The humble origins. The first store. The pickup truck. Sam's maxims. Carved in stone in the lobby of the Walmart headquarters 2 miles from where you were born. about frugality and service and the customer being the boss. You have attended this meeting every year since you were old enough to sit still for it. Every year, the story is the same. Every year, the stock price is higher. Every year, 2.1 million people are paid what they are paid. Every year, you stand in the room where your family is celebrated and you think about Gary setting down his wrench, and you think about your roommate's recalibration, and you think about the wage research paper, and you think about what the story is not saying, which is always the more important part of any story. You applaud. You smile. You are a Walton. And underneath the applause, in the file you have been keeping since you were 7 years old and first walked into a store and understood that the people in the blue vests were different from the people in the house you came from, you are still running the calculation. Bentonville has changed. Tom Walton and Stare at Walton, through their firm RZC Investments, have backed a new mountain biking park near the family's hometown of Bentonville, Arkansas, also home to Walmart's headquarters. Your great-aunt Alice built Crystal Bridges, a museum of American art, a billion-dollar collection of paintings and sculpture set into the Ozark hillside, admission-free, open to anyone who drives to a town in northwest Arkansas that nobody outside the region had reason to visit before the family decided to make it matter. The town square has restaurants now, design firms, tech startups that moved here because the cost of living is low and the bike trails are extraordinary, and the Walton Family Foundation funds local entrepreneurs with the same deliberateness that the original Walmart strategy funded itself. This is what the third generation built. Not Walmart. Something alongside it. Something that tries to answer in architecture and trail maps and free admission the question the first generation left open: whether the place that made you could be made into something more than the place that made you. Whether a fortune built on extraction could fund a creation. Whether the dollar saved is still a dollar when you have 500 billion of them, and the people who generated them are still making 19 an hour. You do not have a clean answer to this. You are not sure a clean answer exists. The voting rights arrived last year. You were 24 years old. You now have a formal vote over the direction of a company with a market cap approaching $1 trillion and 2.1 million employees and $681 billion in annual revenue, and a stock price that has made your family worth more this year than last year and more last year than the year before by a factor that compounds while you sleep. The next generation, when they have great amounts of wealth, are less concerned with how to make more wealth and more concerned with the issue of what to do with it. This is the polite description. The accurate description is that you are 24 years old, and you have been handed a vote over the daily economic reality of 2.1 million people, and the question of what to do with it is not a question that has a satisfying answer that also leaves the stock price where it is. You think about what Lucas said, the second 60 years. You think about Gary and his wrench and the directness of a man who saw you as a person. You think about your roommate's recalibration in the seminar room. You think about Sam and his pickup truck. The deliberate plainness of it, the philosophy of it, the way that philosophy produced an empire, and the empire produced a question the philosophy was never designed to answer. You think about the first Walmart, Rogers, Arkansas, July 2nd, 1962, one store. The proposition: we will sell you what you need for less than anyone else. The proposition worked. The proposition is still working. And the people it is working on. The 2.1 million in the blue vests, and the millions more who depend on the low prices because the low prices are the difference between the month working out and not working out. They are not abstractions. They are not a number in a shareholder report. They are Gary. You are standing in the Walmart on the south side of Bentonville, not the headquarters, not the shareholders meeting, the actual store. You come here sometimes, alone, without staff, without anyone who knows your last name, though in Bentonville that is almost impossible. So you have driven 40 minutes south to a store where the parking lot is full of Silverados and Corollas and minivans with the paint coming off near the wheel wells. The fluorescent light is the same light it has always been, the specific white flatness of it. The smell, cleaning product and cardboard and something warm from the bakery section near the entrance. The prices. They are low. They are genuinely, materially, meaningfully low in a way that matters to the person deciding between the name brand and the Walmart brand with $47 left until payday. Your great-grandfather understood this person. He built everything for this person. You understand this person differently than your great-grandfather did. You have read things he did not read. You have thought about things the 1962 version of the proposition could not have anticipated. The person at the register is a woman approximately your mother's age. She has been on her feet for 6 hours. She will go home tonight to a house whose mortgage is calculated against a salary that is directly, arithmetically, structurally connected to the $513 billion your family holds. She rings up a cart of groceries. She smiles at the customer. She is professional and present and entirely competent at a job that requires more competence than it is paid for. She does not know your name. You are not wearing anything that would tell her. For a few minutes, in the flat white light of a Walmart in southern Benton County, you are simply a person standing in the aisle. And the file you have been keeping since you were 7 years old, the file with the wage research and Gary's wrench and your roommate's face and Lucas's second 60 years, opens. Your great-grandfather drove a red Ford F-150. He drove it to the stores. He talked to the employees. He asked them what the customers were asking for that Walmart didn't have yet. He wrote it down in a yellow legal pad he carried everywhere. He believed, genuinely and without irony, that he was on the same side as the people in the blue vests. He was not wrong about this in the way he understood it. He was also not entirely right. This is the thing about Sam Walton that the biography can't resolve and the shareholders meeting can't resolve and the second 60 years can't resolve. He was a man of his time and his place and his proposition, and the proposition worked. And the working of it produced something that is simultaneously the most democratic retail institution in American history and the largest employer of low-wage labor in the world. Both of those things are true. They have always been true. You were born into both of them. You are 24 years old. The Walton family now controls wealth across 3 generations. The name is on the side of 10,000 buildings in 19 countries. The stock is up again this quarter. The family's net worth increased by roughly $100 million today, not from any decision any of you made, but from the movement of a share price tied to the judgment of markets about the future of a company that sells toilet paper and televisions and car tires to people who need toilet paper and televisions and car tires. You did nothing today to earn that. You also did nothing to stop it. You are going to vote. Not today, but you will vote on compensation structures, on board composition, on the strategic direction of a company whose decisions ripple outward into the daily economic lives of more people than the population of most countries. You are not naive enough to think one vote changes everything. You are not cynical enough to think it changes nothing. You are somewhere in the specific uncomfortable middle, the place where all the honest people in your situation eventually arrive, where the question is not whether to participate but how, and the answer is not obvious. And the people who tell you the answer is obvious are either not thinking hard enough or not being honest about who benefits from the simplicity. Outside, it is another ordinary morning in Bentonville, Arkansas. The headquarters are 2 miles north, the original store, the one on the Bentonville Town Square where Sam opened his first shop in 1945, 17 years before Walmart, a 5 and dime called Walton's 5 and 10, is now a museum. Sam's office is preserved inside it, the yellow legal pads on the desk, the pickup truck parked out front. People come from all over the country to see it. They want to understand how one man started with one store in a small town and ended up here. What they are really asking is a different question. They are asking whether it was worth it, whether the cheapest prices in the world are worth the cost of the people who make them possible, whether a fortune built on a dollar saved is a fortune or a debt. You know the number, $513 billion. You know the other number, 2.1 million. You are the grandson of a man who received stock as an inheritance. You are the great-grandson of a man who drove a red pickup truck and believed, completely and sincerely, that he was on the same side as the people in the blue vests. Whether he was right is the question your entire generation of this family is living inside. Whether you can be on their side is the question you will spend the rest of your life trying to answer. Not with the philanthropy, not with the voting rights, not with the mountain bike trails, or the art museum, or the impact investing, or any of the things the third generation built alongside the thing the first generation built. With something harder to name than any of those. With the specific willingness to hold, simultaneously, the gratitude and the reckoning. The inheritance and the question it arrives with. The fortune and the debt. Outside, it is still morning. The store opens at 6. The parking lot is already full.